Hello everyone, I'm Jonathan, also known as the PC Genie. Hopefully some of you should know by now. Anyway, I'm going to be talking about a few things and we'll be having a look at this game I've got and I quite like it. I won't go into any spoilers, I have finished it already, but I mean, it's only a game, I'll tell you in the meantime. There we go, so, it's one of those games, I'd call it episodic. It's a bit like, if you standard TV show, in that luckily I can tell you a lot about the game without actually revealing spoilers. You get sort of, the usual sorts of interactions and character development and those sorts of things going on, but then you have the core sort of, plot and story elements, which I won't spoil for you, luckily, which happen, sort of in the background, or every so often you have to pay attention to, well, you don't have to, I don't say you have to pay attention, it's not like stuff is always happening out of the corner of your eye, but maybe there is and I just didn't notice. But there is quite a bit of, a lot of non-essential story stuff, and then there's a bit of the main plot in what's going on in the night in the woods. So yeah, I do like it. I've done my first playthrough. There are clearly, I don't know about multiple endings, I'm going to find out. However, there are certainly multiple things that can be done. One of the main things that happens is you go through the individual days and sort of hang out with the characters and friends that are around in the town. And there are a few of them, and there are even achievements for spending most of your days with a character at a time. So, to do this, and because I thought she was my favourite character, in my first playthrough, spent most of my time with Bea, or Beatrice Santello, that's the one. Basically, you get a few characters. You've got Gregg, who's a sort of best friend, a lot more hyperactive, flails his arms about and goes, "Hey!" that sort of thing, and also a bit of up to mischief. It seems he and May, the main character you play as, just sort of say stuff like crimes. Just the sentence, that means, we're gonna do something, probably like using a baseball bat to hit light bulbs, or that's the time of going into a particular place. I won't say what the place was, but it was kind of like a bit of trespassing. Again, that was related to the plot. But then says that sort of character, and he frequently misses work. Then you've got this guy called Germ, which is a nickname, who's more of a sort of weirdo type of character. So someone probably like me then. And then you've got Angus, who's Gregg's boyfriend, and then you've got Bea, who sort of runs her family business, and also is mainly involved with sort of doing sensible things. It's one of the reasons why she's my favourite character, because it kind of reminds me of myself. It's sort of, don't drink too much, don't do anything stupid or will probably get yourself killed. Also interesting this time when went to this sort of, one of the things that we did was, in game, was go to this shopping and sort of get food for eating dinner together, and then I had to pick out the things to eat. Now, I don't imagine most of you will even know much about me in real life, but here's a little hint. The best thing I can cook is maybe a stew. And that's because I've seen my mother make stew many times, but you really should trust me to make it. I'll definitely make something edible. You won't die of food poisoning, just don't expect a luxurious experience. On a related note, it seemed to happen in-game as well. Didn't do very well, and oh dear. Yeah, as you can see, you can interact with lots of things going on in the environment, talk to all sorts of people in town. There's all sorts of stuff in it. It changes every day. It's not like you go to, let's say, a Dave who says, "Oh, the leaves are nice and brown today, this autumn," and then you meet him tomorrow. Repeat dialogue. "Oh, the leaves are nice and brown today," and forever and ever. Like in quite a lot of games, let's admit it. Even the games that have been really highly rated, and quite rightly so, like the Elder Scrolls series, you know, all sorts of side, you know, quests and stories and things going on. There is a lot of, you talk to someone, it's just kind of like, you know, pressing play on the answering machine again and again. But in this case, between different days, you've got all different interactions, and even with the environment, there might be a statue of a famous figure, and May, the main character, will make a comment, but it's different every single day. So it's curious in the fact that you could avoid most of this and just literally steamroller through all of the story and ignore all of these things going on in the background, which I don't do. And like there is even this. There's the TV show Garbo and Malloy. It's not like anything that's amazing, I'll admit, but you know, there are ways you can spend time with your dad and watch this show, and there are loads of episodes and things going on, but it's very easy. As far as I know, there are, you know, not mandatory interactions, except maybe one or two. So you could go through the entire game and never see any of this, or maybe see an episode or something, and pretty much ignore that as well. Yeah, here we are. But yes, apart from that, in terms of my reactions, I mean, as you can see, the animations are nice and smooth. I haven't got the greatest computer, so it sometimes drops to about 30, or in some extreme circumstances below that, but generally it's very good. It's got that hand-drawn kind of atmosphere. Sorry, I'm checking if the TV show is still going. But yeah, it's, like I say, it's a lovely sort of art style. One of my key complaints might be that it's kind of hard to detect what you can walk on or not, because there's a lot of, I wouldn't say platforming in a standard sense, you know, like you got to go onto ledges and you might die if you drop off a cliff or something. You don't have to worry about that, but you have to sort of generally navigate around, and there are some puzzles involving the platforming elements, but if you don't know which layer is what, it's hard to tell. And it's not like in some games where you have maybe slightly less detail, or sorry, just keep it going. You know, you can't really tell. It doesn't. Sometimes you think, this bit of the area is darker, so maybe that's just the background, and you can't jump on it. And lo and behold, you jump up and actually can go on it. Or some areas that look almost identical, one of which you can actually jump on and you know, use as a platform to get to other things, and another which you can't. So I would say it's a key complaint. But again, since this isn't a game where you can, you know, like Super Mario style, you can fall into a pit and die, it's not so much of a problem. Thinking about the dialogue, one of the things I have enjoyed about this game is that it's more realistic. I'd call it maybe a bit sort of, well, like people around my age, that sort of almost stereotypical. People saying like in the incorrect circumstances, it's like a bit kind of like annoying, you know, and stuff like, no, it's not that bad. I mean, I've seen some instances, I can't remember who said it, some other YouTuber called it Life is Tumblr. But, you know, there was the Life is Strange, and it was really cringeworthy. And I don't just mean that in the way that some people say, ooh, like mega cringe. Just, oh, minigame time. Missed. No, let's do it properly. Oh. Gotcha. I just stole something, essentially. Anyway. Yeah, so the dialogue is much better. I mean, instead of people going, oh, that was hella good, mate. And you sat there going, oh, stop, please. Make the blue-haired girl shut up. Instead, it's better and more. And again, the characters have their own flavours to them. So again, people like Gregg or Bea or Angus or Germ, they have believable character traits and the sorts of things they say. And again, it seems like I'm going to need to play this game entirely through a good 4 or 5 times just to find the different characters and things. And you can also use the platforming to get to other areas and then, or go and explore around in different directions to go to different places. Oh, excellent. There we go. But yes, there are all sorts of places you can explore, and see what I mean, there's all sorts of things that you can do, areas to explore, and you really do have to play the game entirely through about probably 4 or 5 times, because there are different days, and again, similar with the standard dialogue things, you're not just having the same answering machine responses. Day 1 you might go out with Gregg or something and they'll do one thing, and then day 2 they'll do a different thing. I think that's one of the reasons for the achievements, because frankly, if you really want to fully experience the game and all of the interactions and outings you can have, you'd need to play it through, and pretty much like I did, you spend all of the time, as much of the time as you can, with Bea, and then with Gregg, and then with Angus. You don't have to, and if you want to just get on with the story again, a lot, I'd say probably about 70% of the things you can do in this are skippable. I mean, there are a lot of things you can just pretty much just glance past it and ignore it all, but it's worth it, It is fun, because again, it's not just, let's talk to this guy and expire all the dialogue options and then, right, that's that done, and then bugger off like. Just also little touches as well, like again, I deliberately jumped up there to catch the fireflies. It's nice. I mean, again, these things aren't necessary. You could ignore it, run off, skip these parts, but I mean, every individual area's got the soundtracks. That's something else I like as well, because you've got different areas. Some games I've seen you get like, say, 30-second loops or something similar, maybe a soundtrack that goes on for a couple of minutes, but it's the same thing for 90% of the game. I mean, let's think of a few examples. I'd say I was a bit annoyed about having the same repeat soundtrack for, what was it called? It was a generic zombie game, but it was kind of done interesting sort of random encounters and things, and sort of generated each time. Does March of the Living, that's the one, which is a surprise. Normally any game with zombies in has something like dead or dying in the title, and this was called Living, which is almost ironic. There you go. But yeah, that is that sort of thing where sometimes it gets nice soundtracks that, they're different. Like in this game, you just go into a different shop. They could maybe end up spending 30 seconds tops in, you go, hi there, how are you doing? Day's alright. Okay, bye. Done. And you'll probably get about 10% of the soundtrack and run off. And yet, they've got these good soundtracks that go on for a good, minute or 2 or 3, and all sorts for different areas, some that you'll only hear once, and it's nice when you've got that attention to detail. Sometimes it's like they say, it's the little things that count. Those things that make your experiences feel unique and like they're organically developing, as opposed to you just grinding through an experience because they're sort of dragging it out. Oh, this player needs at least 10 hours in. Alright, let's stretch it thin again. You know the games I mean. Especially when you've got crap like collectibles. I don't think there are any collectibles in this game. You just, you go and do your play about with the friends and learn about their backstories and the things going on, because the idea is, I mean, you've been away to college for years, and of course you need to sort of catch up. And it's great fun, because it feels meaningful, as opposed to, you know, here's another example. Assassin's Creed Unity was a bit annoying in the fact that you've got stuff like these ribbons and cockades, sorry, and Napoleonic hats. You start going, I mean, they got unlockables and things, and it's kind of nice compared to, you know, paying bloody microtransactions and, you know, paying more real money to get more of the game that you already paid for. But at the same time, these collectibles and things are just dilution. It's like, oh, what's it called? Not aromatherapy, maybe that, but you know, that science thing where you, well, pseudo-science thing where you get something that sounds, you know, like a good idea for medicine, like using, you know, certain herbs like sage, chives, and those sorts of things, and then you see, oh, let's dilute it with alcohol, and the more diluted it is, the stronger it is. Come on, matey. You're making something look like more when it's actually less. And it's the same thing in those games. So, again, I mean, there are good points to this game and there are bad points. I mean, I'm trying to think of some bad points actually saying that. I don't want to sound like some fanboy. I mean, I'm not someone who obsesses about this game. But, again, it's worth mentioning a good point, because things like the unique interactions every day and the different backstories of the characters and how well developed it is, it's a nice change. So, I mean, I suppose it's not really the main complaints are, excuse me, this thing has been done and it's bad. You know, like in some games that have supposed fighting in them, and you go, well, actually, the fighting's really terrible. It's one of those games where the things they do are really well done, like the story is very story-driven, it's very character-driven, and they know that's what they can do, and they do it well. So that's what happens, and they've got that happening. So what I'd say is the usual sorts of complaints you could have about a game like this is more along the lines of, you know, what they haven't got. So there's not, I mean, if you looked at the sorts of features and compared them to other games in an almost, you could say, fair or unfair context, I don't know, like maybe Call of Duty or State of Decay or other games, you see there are various features where you've got maybe monetary and economy systems, you've got systems with, you know, you can do fighting, you've got things with maybe certain characters who, after you build a relationship, you gain certain perks, or maybe base building, or, you know, some games like Fallout 4, for example. I mean, people would complain about how certain things, they do a lot of things, but some might complain they're not done very well. So that's the key difference here, because you've got a lot fewer things in terms of gameplay aspects, because you run around, you jump, you talk to people, and you pick dialogue options to say at stuff or to things. But at least that's what, you know, they specialise in it. That's the best way to talk about it. You get generalising games like perhaps Fallout 4, which are sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. They're not that great at base building. They're all right. The combat, I mean, it's not brilliant, but it'll do. It's fine. And, you know, the stuff you do for gear, it's okay. It's not amazing, but it's fine. Whereas in this case, you say, well, they haven't got that. You know, they haven't got fighting, customizing gear. I mean, there's only one instance where you even have a different outfit to the same thing every day. You know, there are so many of those gameplay aspects that you see elsewhere that are missing from this, but what it does do, it does extremely well, at least in my personal opinion. Yeah. But Yeah, again, so I mean, I suppose I might sound weird by saying that there's a way to play, the right way to play the game. This is one of those games where if you are the sort of person who likes to just steamroller through, just wants to get from start to finish and no mucking about, you're not really going to enjoy this, because, I mean, you probably could just in about 4 or 5 hours, or maybe less. I mean, I'm admittedly quite a slow player, the sort of person people say, oh, I only got 7 hours out of this, and I managed to somehow accidentally drag about 30. I mean, I've been playing Exanima for 190. Gary's mod I've got over 500 hours in, mostly from downloading stuff. But you know, still, this is something you can go from start to finish pretty quickly, and you know, get the key plot aspects done, and that's it. You're done and dusted, and the game's over. And in that case, you're not really going to get the maximum out of it. You've got to savour the flavour. You've got to enjoy. You've got to be a connoisseur of dialogue. I'm gonna copyright that phrase or trademark it or something. Connoisseur of dialogue. There's one example, by the way. Little twinkling lullaby tune of you've just had a sleep and you're waking up. You could listen to that for a good. Well, it only goes for about a minute or so, but it's nice. And yet, there I am. I've just been exactly what I said you shouldn't be, and just skipped it. Here's what I mean. So some of these, you'll get some interactions, and you'll see these bits of interactions. Oh, so cute then. We were all so cute then, and you can pop back and stare at the photo another day, and it's going to be different. So again, it's nice. I mean, I can imagine it's that sort of thing where it's not difficult, technically speaking. It's not like you've got to, you know, really have all these glitches and things you've got to combat with, and oh, we've got another bug, let's go and patch it up. It's simple, technically speaking, but it's a bit like when I'm making my buttered chainmail. It's easy to do. I just got to get the pliers, pop them in, close it up, and it goes in a pattern, and you just keep doing that. But it's something I imagine would take a very long time, and it shows just that attention to detail. You know, you have all of your interactions, and again, they're not just arbitrary interactions either. They feel noteworthy. I mean, I remember someone on some website like Kotaku or Gymquisition or somewhere mentioned that if you have like an argument with your mum in this game, you feel invested. Like, oh no, I've had this argument. I want to make amends. I want to make things better. Whereas you get some games, they'll try to do these tear jerkers. Oh, here's your bestest buddy Max, and then, oh no, he's died. Oh, come on now, have the tears. And you're sat there going, alright, well, that was riveting. Next. You know, I don't know, I have to admit, I don't know all the nuances and the ins and outs of how these things happen. Imagine again, it's the character development and the flavours. You get some sort of generic characters who are just, you know, placeholders for insert romantic interest here, insert bestest buddy who's got to die later here, and that sort of stuff. Whereas in these cases, you've got the people who've got their flavours. I mean, there's a wiki dedicated to it, and they've literally got, you know, like, personalities driven out to them. And heck, if I could be bothered, I could probably do like the what is it? The flavours with the, you know, you've got the phlegmatic, melancholic. What was it? Phlegmatic, melancholic, sanguine, and something. So it's that sort of thing. Again, these characters are really fleshed out, and you really do feel like they're important. And even the people who could easily have been in the background, like Angus, admittedly, he does have some involvement in the main plot, especially towards the end. I won't, again, spoil exactly what he does, but I find it could have been quite easy to have them end up just falling into a background and just being like a walking, talking, you know, piece of decoration. And just sort of there. But they managed to sort of flesh it out, and again, you can hang out with him and learn more about the story and, you know, all these things which aren't mandatory. Again, I mean, in my first playthrough, I spent all of my time with Bea. 10 out of 10 would go on a dinner date with a crocodile again. Talking crocodile again. But, you know, now I'll probably go and have all sorts of interactions with Gregg. We'll probably do crimes. Full stop. And all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, and these, I like it. I sound like I'm probably repeating myself. I'm just trying to elaborate on it, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's pretty much like real life conversation, really. Sometimes I wonder if they sort of went through a dialogue as if it was just, you know, oh, I had this person had an argument with their parents, and they just pretty much went, well, that seems legit. We'll just put that into context of Night in the Woods, and we'll just have that happening between the two talking cats. How about that, buddies? Yeah, that sounds good. Let's get that fleshed out. I don't know. Maybe that's how it went. We'll never know. But certainly good. Oh, I can think of something that I'd say is a main complaint that is something that could be modified in terms of the game, not just adding new gameplay features that aren't there. If you like choose your own adventure games and that sort of actual choice, admittedly there are things you can do to choose, and again, who you hang out with and who you're developing relationships with, and it is meaningful, that's for sure. But at the same time, there are a lot of things that May is going to do, and you have to be prepared to be a bit annoyed at the fact that actually she's going to make decisions that you might not do otherwise. Like, for example, might drink too much alcohol, or might say something that you really think you shouldn't be saying, that sort of thing. But, you know, at the same time, there are still things you can choose, and it's still an interesting game overall. Because even if it's with set characters and set narrative, apart from the things you can choose, it feels worthwhile. I'm not sure I should have gone up along here. I'm skipping a load of interactions. Something there are. Every day, another thing that happens is you get even attention to littler details is done. Apart from the fact that, of course, the autumn will turn into winter, so the leaves will fall like you see there, and they're interactable bits of the environment you probably saw walk past when they get knocked about. Apart from that, even the people walking through town and the cars going past, even those things do change. So it's one of those things where, there are things that I really do like those, and things that I really do dislike, such as the fact that your main character's gonna do stuff such as, just, you know, do stupid things, say things you really wouldn't want them to say, and things like that. But if you are prepared for that, and it is going to be linear, or, you know, they have their own personality in that sense, it's still something I'd say is really worth playing, and it's really been fun. I couldn't complain that, and I don't seem to be the only person who thinks that, because one of the reasons why I was persuaded to buy it, I mean, it was someone like Jim Sterling who said it, or Yahtzee Croshaw from Zero Punctuation said it's worth playing casually while reviewing another game. And I thought I'll have a look, and I looked at the Steam page, and it was rated overwhelmingly positive. I mean, sure, people might be biased to say, you know, it was an alright game, so I'll give it a positive review, but to have an overwhelmingly positive, you know, in recent and overall, that tells you something, that people, you know, have consistently enjoyed playing the game. Even if it's maybe because of the fact that there aren't many games like this that are so narrative driven, it's probably what's helping indie developers, you know, have these sorts of games going. Because you have your Activision and the rest who are just publishing your shooty bang bang, you know, Call of Duty and Battlefield, which fill in a particular target market and do those areas well. And if someone who's quite new and independent tried to enter into that market, they're just going to fail miserably. At least in my opinion. Maybe they can do it, I don't know. It's up to them. I don't want to stop anybody who feels like they want to try, but you know what I mean, it's a saturated market, and you've got to try hard to get into there. Whereas because these, you know, people sort of think that's what everyone wants, maybe because it applies to the broadest demographic, and that makes the biggest bucks, there are games like this, and there's a gap in a market ready to be filled to these. So when someone does it reasonably well, like in this case, you've got nice bits of dialogue, with a few choices and things, you know, have a bit of interaction going on in the story-driven games, as opposed to the shooty bang bangs and the city builders and that sort of stuff, then suddenly, actually, it's going to become really successful, just like Night in the Woods. So yeah, overall that's my opinion of the game. I'll tell you what, I think I'll end it there. Hopefully you enjoyed my little natter, and have a good day, guys. See you next time. I'm going to try to see if I can do some more stuff on Fiore's manuscripts and that sort of stuff in swordsmanship, but I'm struggling because I want to do techniques, but I don't have a training partner or someone I can videotape, so it's a bit difficult. But we'll see. Bye.